Welcome, everybody. Friday, June 28th. Hello, everybody. John Aravosis here. Hello. 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 TikTok or YouTube, I should say. Let me get TikTok rolling. We're going to have a busy day on TikTok because we're going to talk about the debate. And poor Ashley and Amanda and Big Hawk are going to lose their minds. Anyway. There we go. All right. TikTok. All right. Hey, Quiet Storm. All right, TikTokers are joining us. Excellent. Oh, dog. Hello, dog. Come on in. Come on. Didn't put water out for the dog. That's going to be, well, I'll hear about that in a bit, but we'll give her water in a bit. Anyway, hey, TikTokers. Yep. Adjusting camera a little bit. There we go. Hello, Bjorn and Germany. Hello, all. How's everybody doing today? Long week. Yep. Adjusting my lighting. Woo. Hey, Ash, I think it's going to be busy today because we're going to talk about the debate. Hey, John, the Greek goat is ready. Hey, John and Succeed, thank you for the gifts. Luna had surgery. Didn't know that. Sorry. Alan, Jen, Derek, lovely gifts all. Thank you, everybody. Anyway, so welcome, everybody. Yeah, we're going to start. I'm going to wait a minute for folks to arrive. I'll start talking about the debate since that was a big deal last night, presidential debate, and then we'll delve into the rest of this. Thank you, Elizabeth. Crazy night, but I've had time to think about it, which is interesting. Which actually reminds me, just writing a quick note. All right. Anyway, woo. All right, guys. So welcome, everybody. I am John Aravosis. This is my show. Thank you, Rocco. We talk about the latest news from Ukraine. Thank you, Jane, for the gift as well. Elizabeth, who's a Derek, Jen, Alan. I think I got all of you guys. This show, we talk about the latest news from Ukraine, but we also talk about other news as it comes up. I like Jon Stewart a lot. And obviously, because last night was the big presidential debate in America, we're going to talk about it. Thank you, Russell. Thank you, Elena. Other than that, remember tomorrow morning, we've got our coffee talk. Coffee Talk is basically the weekly get-together I do for paid subscribers, so the paid monthly subscribers. Thank you again, Elena. Multiple gifts there. And paid monthly subscribers, a special show just for you guys. So anybody who has SNN next to their name either paid for it or got it as a gift for a month, or anybody who's got the green on their name on YouTube, same thing. You either paid for it or somebody gave it to you as a gift for a month. Thank you, Elena and Richard. But if you've got either of those, join us at 11 a.m. Eastern Time U.S. tomorrow morning on TikTok and YouTube, and I will have a special show just for you guys where we hang out. It's nice. Thank you, Hannah. We hang out. It's a nice hangout. Anyway. All right. That's our coffee talk. Just remember, I do this for free, guys. If you like the show, please support me with gifts or with memberships where you can basically sign up to become a subscriber and pay once a month, which can be really nice. If I can build up a big enough subscriber base, it could be kind of nice. Thank you, Bagpuss. Thank you, PC Null. All right. So I am going to start talking about the presidential debate. Then we're going to segue into Ukraine. Because as you guys know, I do handle, thank you, Russell. We do handle other big issues as they come up. Last night's presidential debate was kind of a disaster. President Biden was awful. Trump was a pathological liar. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Suzanne. You could say Trump won in that Trump came across, I thought Trump came across relatively sane. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Russell. He restrained his inner a-hole. He didn't come across totally, he came across mean, but he didn't come across crazy. I thought Trump was restrained for Trump, which was what Trump had to do, frankly. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Chazak. Biden was awful. Biden just came across old and confused and doddering. Biden was the worst I've seen him. I mean, just awful. So everything you heard, thank you, Tiger, by the way, for that. Everything you heard about Biden last night was true. He was awful. I saw somebody on Twitter who, maybe it was a comedian or something, who sort of summed it up interestingly, though. He was talking about Biden's debate performance last night and how bad Biden was. Thank you, Courtney. Look, Biden was awful. I mean, guys, look, I mean, again, you can disagree, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Biden was horrific last night. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Ava. But here's the thing. In a couple of minutes, I did not put out water for the dog. So in a few minutes, I'm going to get the dog. Here's the thing. Somebody said last night, I thought it was very interesting. They said, if Biden worked for you in a company, I know what it was. A CNN reporter tweeted, thank you, Love My, and said, if Biden were like an 81-year-old or 82-year-old, whatever, working for your company, would you keep him on the job after his behavior? And somebody wrote back and said, yeah, if it meant that his replacement literally tried to burn down the company. I mean, the person actually said, and he did a pretty good job. Like, and if he did a pretty good job, but now he's too old and his replacement literally tried to burn down the company. He said, then I would not replace him with the other guy. And that sort of is the best. Unfortunately, this is the conundrum Americans have. Biden is too old. He is. Donald Trump is the guy who tried to burn the country down, who tried to end our democracy, multiple felon, pathological liar, killed millions during COVID, saddled up to the Russians, gave them our secrets, stole America's secrets, violently tried to overthrow the government again. Thank you, Elizabeth. I mean, I just, Biden's too old. Yes. And Donald Trump, we might as well elect Vladimir Putin president if we're going to go there, or Viktor Orban, right? In any case, I'm going to give you some of the highlights of the debate. Trump, the irony with Trump is, and of course, CNN, by the way, CNN did a horrible job. CNN, and they said, by the way, anybody who joined us for our live debate coverage last night, do you remember what I said? CNN came out and backed up what I said. It wasn't our job to moderate. It wasn't our job to call out the lies. Our job was to let the candidates call each other out on lies. After 8 years of Donald Trump, the media hasn't learned that it's their job to call him out on his lies. That basically, if you just let Trump's lies go there, right, he will not be called out on them. Trump will get away with lying. Thank you, Elizabeth. Trump will get away with pathologically lying if you let him, and the media let him again. I'm going to go through some of Trump's lies because, again, I think the man's a danger. Some of you don't like it. Too bad. I think the man's a danger to the country. He is a unique danger. I don't have a problem with a Republican being president. Nikki Haley, I think, would have been a fine president. She's way too conservative for me, but she would have been fine. She loves the country. Donald Trump is a crook, a criminal. The one point I made about Trump before was you wouldn't let him near your daughter. Most of you, and you all, even you Trump supporters out there know this, you would never let Donald Trump near your daughter. You never would. Let's talk about Trump's lies. So Trump repeated the false claim that so they talked about abortion a lot. Trump's defense on the abortion thing, because Trump single-handedly got abortion outlawed in much of America. We had a Supreme Court decision called Roe v. Wade. It is complicated, but I'm going to explain it because I think it's important that people understand even for Americans, especially how this works. Roe v. Wade was a Supreme Court decision from 1971 or so. No, 1973, I think. 1973, I think, was Roe. And the Supreme Court decision said that basically women in America had a constitutional right to abortion, but it could be restricted. Obviously, this kind of stuff, right? It could be restricted, but they had a constitutional right to an abortion. Trump and the Republicans have been trying for decades to get rid of abortion, to ban abortion in America. And Trump appointed Supreme Court justices on purpose who would get rid of a woman's right to an abortion in America. And they did. And Trump and all the Republicans were proud of it. Over 20 American states out of 50 states in our country now ban abortion entirely. Trump last night lied. Trump tried to claim a couple things. One, he claimed that all the legal scholars agreed that Roe v. Wade, which was the Supreme Court decision protecting a woman's right to an abortion, all the legal scholars agreed that Roe v. Wade needed to be overturned. Thank you, Roger. Needed to be overturned. Okay? Insane. Legal scholars on the left liked Roe. Legal scholars on the right did not. Trump then claimed that most of the American people wanted Roe to be overturned. Abortion has had the support of around 2/3 of the American people for a very long time. He lied. And by the way, this is why Republicans lie about abortion, because when you look at the polls, the American people are actually very pro-choice, very the terms people use is pro-choice and pro-life, right? Basically pro-abortion. American voters believe that women have the right to choose to end a pregnancy if they so choose. Now, within reason, right? Trump went off on like a 5-minute lie last night. Again, I'm bringing these up because he lied nonstop last night, and there are a lot of things I will forgive in a president. Being a pathological liar is not one of them. If you're willing to lie about what your beliefs are, if you're willing to lie about what you're going to do in office, then I don't know what you're going to do in office. Trump lied and claimed that, thank you, Toketh, what he stopped by getting rid of Roe v. Wade, he stopped post-birth abortions. Trump and the Republicans have come up with this crazy lie in the last 5 years or so that doctors were aborting. Listen to this, guys. Again, for you foreigners especially, you're going to go, this is insane. That American doctors were aborting babies after they're born is what Trump claimed. So a baby gets born, and after the baby's born, 9 months, you have the baby. After you're born, you say, let's kill it, and the doctor does. Obviously not true. Trump went off for 5 minutes about this last night. And here's the problem. Biden was so bad last night that Biden couldn't respond to any of this. I mean, these are lies that actually anybody could probably refute. Biden was so bad he couldn't refute any of this. So Trump went on for 5 minutes about infanticide. Wall Street Journal fact-checked him. Wall Street Journal said infanticide is illegal in every state. Trump, let's see, what else did he do here? Oh, January 6th. So big surprise, January 6th, which was the day that Trump supporters tried to violently overthrow our government. Trump egged them on. It was part of the larger plot, the larger conspiracy of Trump supporters to stop Congress from certifying Joe Biden as president. Thank you, Nick. What was really important about January 6th was January 6th is the day constitutionally that the Congress gets together, our parliament gets together and certifies the election results. So the reason they had the mob attack the Capitol that day was to literally stop Congress from meeting and certifying that Donald Trump lost the election. Thank you, Lamb Chop. That's why they did the attack. Trump claimed a number of things. First, he claimed that he didn't egg them on. He did not basically urge them to go to the Capitol. Trump literally told them to go to the Capitol. In the days leading up to this, Trump and his supporters basically talked about violence and violence and violence and violence and violence. Trump absolutely egged them on. Trump lost his Twitter account. I think he may have lost Facebook account at this point too, because Trump refused to call them off and egg them on during the riots. During the riots, we had 1,000 Trump supporters in the U.S. Capitol. They stormed it. They broke in. They attacked policemen. We have videos. We have policemen. We've all seen the videos. The Trump supporters like to lie about this. We've all seen the videos of how horrific that day was. Trump claims that most of these people were nice people. They didn't commit any crimes. He praised the insurrectionists. These guys are domestic terrorists. Trump praised them again. Previously, Trump has said that he's going to pardon the terrorists. What did he do? He lied. He claimed that he didn't egg them on. He claimed, and he loves to claim this, and the Wall Street Journal, again, the Wall Street Journal is one of the most conservative publications in America. The Wall Street Journal called him out for lying. Trump claimed that he wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. Trump has this thing about going after women, especially black women, but in this case, Nancy Pelosi's white. And Trump claimed that Pelosi was in charge of security at the Capitol that day. Nancy Pelosi is the top, or was the top Democrat at the time in the U.S. House of Representatives. He claims she was in charge of security, and Trump tried to send 10,000 National Guard troops to protect the Capitol, but Nancy Pelosi said no. Well, the Wall Street Journal, which is the conservative publication in America, one of the most conservative publications, said Trump lied. Nancy Pelosi did not stop him from sending troops, and Trump did not try to send troops. It was a 100% lie. Trump is also going to pardon these people, which I said. Listen to this. Trump says last night, they talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol and in many cases were ushered in by the police. Small number of people, it was over 1,000. In many cases, ushered in by the police. We've seen the videos. Guys, this is what fascism is about, and this is what authoritarianism is about, okay? These people, and this is what's really bad about this, these people believe in violence. They believe in violence as politics, right? In violent political change, when they lose elections, they violently try to they try to basically put themselves in power anyway, and then when they get called out on it, they lie. And this is the thing that bothers me the most, I think, which is if you're going to be a fascist, if you're going to believe in political violence, if you're going to hate the troops, if you're going to hate our country, if you're going to embrace America's enemies, why don't you at least admit it? That's the thing I don't understand. Admit it. Admit that you love Putin. Admit that you don't love the American Constitution. Admit that you hate the founding. Admit that you hate the troops, that you called the troops suckers and losers. That was another thing Trump denied last night. Trump very famously called American soldiers suckers and losers. It's worse than that. Trump said this about American soldiers who were killed in action and who were prisoners of war. He said suckers and losers get killed in action and are prisoners of war. Trump tried to deny it last night. Guess who said it? Guess who said Trump said this? Trump's own chief of staff, the chief of staff of the White House, the top political job at the White House. Trump hired an American Marine Corps general. He hired a Marine Corps general, a decorated general to this job. And the general went public and said, Donald Trump accused our troops of being suckers and losers, for being killed in action and being prisoners of war. Trump now says the general's lying. Okay? Why would a Republican Marine Corps general lie? Think, adventurers. Why would a Republican Marine Corps general lie? I ask you, right? You know, I mean, again, any of you who are sane know exactly what I'm talking about. We have had all of Trump's officials. So many of Trump's top officials have come out and accused him of horrific things. Nobody does this about Biden. Nobody does this about Obama. By the way, nobody does this about George Bush. George Bush, who was the Republican president before Trump, right? None of Bush's top people have come out and said he hates the troops. He's a pathological liar. He's a crook. He's a womanizer. He breaks the law, right? He doesn't believe in the Constitution. Nobody says that. This is my point here. George Bush, who was our Republican president earlier, before Trump, before Obama, before Trump, nobody says this about Bush. None of Bush's top appointees say the horrible things about Bush that all of Trump's top officials say about Trump. By the way, Trump's vice president, Mike Pence, the guy who Trump's mob wanted to lynch that day, Trump's mob literally built the scaffold? I forget what it's called, where they hang people. Whatever they call that scaffold. They wanted to lynch Mike Pence. He's not endorsing Trump for president. His own vice president said he's not going to endorse Trump for president. Okay, let's go on here. Trump falsely claimed that Biden had the largest deficit, that Biden increased the deficit, that Biden's spending too much money. Guess who increased the American budget deficit the most in American history? I'll give you a guess which president it was, and it wasn't Joe Biden, which Donald Trump claimed. It was Donald Trump. By the way, this again comes from the Wall Street Journal, okay? Biden has closed the deficit. Trump inflated it more than any other president. Trump, I believe it's 1/3 of the whole national debt that Trump is responsible for, blew it out of the water. And by the way, it wasn't just COVID. When you take COVID out of it, because Trump likes to blame everything on COVID, which is funny because Trump dropped the ball on COVID, right? Trump got multiple millions of Americans killed in COVID because Trump claimed that COVID was no big deal, right? The economy spun out of control. We had to spend trillions in money because of all the hurt to the economy COVID caused. That happened because Trump ignored COVID, right? But let's put that aside. Put aside the money that we had to spend because of COVID. When you put that money aside, guess what? Donald Trump spent far more money than Joe Biden. Trump put us in a bigger deficit than Joe Biden did. Why? Because of his tax cuts for the rich. I continue. Immigration. Trump argued that Biden is letting in millions of illegals who are using our Social Security and Medicare. Total lie. People who come here illegally don't get to use Social Security. They don't get to use Medicare. Social Security is the retirement plan for seniors in America that everyone gets access to. Medicare is the healthcare retirement plan for seniors. Illegals don't get to use either one. Trump lied. Trump then claimed that Joe Biden was letting in millions of illegals. Trump lied. Guess who let in millions of illegals this year? I'll give you one guess. Donald Trump. I've explained this to you before. This is my favorite story because you can Google this one and you will find quotes from Republican senators agreeing with me. Donald Trump killed the deal to close our border with Mexico. Our border with Mexico is a problem. It absolutely is a problem. Thank you, Chi-Town. Thank you, Flower. Absolutely is a problem. Trump killed the deal. Democrats caved earlier this year in January. Democrats caved. The Republicans wanted to negotiate a border deal. Democrats freaked out, probably because of the election, and Democrats agreed to the Republican proposal. This was a proposal from James Lankford, who is a conservative Republican senator from Oklahoma, as conservative as you get. Thank you, Zoe, for the gift. Lankford came out with a very conservative immigration proposal, conservative Republican guys, and the Democrats agreed with it. The Democrats didn't ask for amnesty. They always ask for amnesty. They didn't. What happened? Trump freaked out. The Republicans, of course, agreed because it was their proposal. The Democrats agreed. Biden agreed. And by the way, Google, this is one of those things I love to say. Google it. Google it. Google bipartisan immigration deal in January and February, and you will see article after article after article about how Donald Trump killed the deal because Trump wanted illegals crossing our border so he could use it as an election issue. He didn't want the problem solved because if the problem was solved, what would happen? He wouldn't be able to complain about it. Last night in the debate, Trump claimed about the illegals crossing our border. Had Biden reached this deal with the Republicans, which he did, we wouldn't have these illegals coming anymore, and Trump couldn't complain. So what happened? Trump killed the deal. He killed it. Read all the articles, read the quotes from the Republican. There's famous video of the Republican senators blaming Donald Trump and saying he did it for the election because he wanted the border to be a problem for the election. Guys, this is what makes me sick about all of this. What else do we have here? Oh, finally, climate change. And I'll talk about Ukraine. Finally, climate change. Trump was asked 3 times about climate change. Not only refused to answer the question, each time. Oh, that was the other thing. The debate was painful on multiple levels here, but if you watch it, Trump refused to answer pretty much any of the questions. Every question he was asked, he simply answered something else. He just answered something else. He ignored every question he was asked. He got asked about climate change 3 times, never gave a single answer on climate change. He didn't even try to lie about climate change. Trump literally refused to give one answer on climate change, not one freaking answer on climate change. Okay. Now let's talk about Ukraine, where Trump lied left and freaking right about Ukraine. By the way, let's keep in mind here, Donald Trump's history on Ukraine. Donald Trump is single-handedly responsible for handing Ukraine to Russia. 8 months ago, Trump cut off all American aid to Ukraine. All American aid. Trump didn't like it because, of course, it hurts his friends in Russia. And Trump ordered Republicans in Google it. Trump ordered Republicans in Congress, thank you, Pedro, to stop funding Ukraine, and they did. For 6 months, Republicans in Congress cut off all American money to Ukraine because Donald Trump wanted to help his friend Vladimir Putin. And as I've said before, Google it. Trump did it, okay? Last night, Trump claims that Joe Biden invited Vladimir Putin to invade Ukraine. I mean, guys, the lies out of this man, again, you want to disagree on policy, disagree on policy. Don't put a man up who's a pathological liar to be president because that man is unfit to be president. Thank you, Max Track. Trump got up there last night and said, Joe Biden invited Vladimir Putin to invade Ukraine. You know who invited Vladimir Putin to invade? It was Donald Trump. A few months ago, he invited Vladimir Putin to invade Europe. He literally invited him to invade Europe. Okay. World War III, guys, the guy suggested that Putin start. Thank you, Chi-Town. Thank you, Jorge. Thank you, Scott. The other place that Donald Trump invited Vladimir Putin to do, you'll remember back in 2016, when Donald Trump invited Vladimir Putin to attack our elections on his behalf. And what did Putin do? He did exactly what Trump asked. So it's kind of funny that Trump is claiming that Biden invited Putin, right, to invade Ukraine. By the way, again, this is what I think is fascinating about Trump's lies. He can't decide who he wants to be, right? The Republicans want to ban all abortion. They want to ban all contraception, but they don't want to admit it. They then want to deny it. And it's like, are you for contraception? Are you against contraception? Then they want to claim that January 6th, close, that January 6th was okay. Nothing wrong happened. Then they want to claim that Nancy Pelosi is to blame for not stopping January 6th when nothing wrong happened. Well, if nothing wrong happened, why is Pelosi to blame? Because I thought nothing wrong happened, right? On Ukraine, what else do they do? He gets asked repeatedly, are Putin's terms acceptable to you with regards to Ukraine? So Putin has come out with terms saying that he wants the Ukrainians to give up all their territory, all their freaking territory to the Russians. And Trump initially refused to answer. Then he said, no, they're not acceptable, which was good. It's the first time Trump said anything good that night. That was good. But then he claimed that the invasion wouldn't have happened if he were president. Well, why is that exactly? Now, interestingly, Trump justified Putin's earlier invasion. You may recall that the invasion of Ukraine, thank you, Bryce, started in 2014. The invasion of Ukraine did not start in 2022. That's the one we're familiar with, right? That's the one where Russia famously invaded with other troops. Russia was already in Ukraine. Russia had invaded Ukraine in 2014. They took the province of Crimea in southern Ukraine. Remember that? Crimea here. The Russians stole in 2014. Trump did an interview because I watched it live on TV. Trump did an interview defending Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine in 2014 and defending Putin stealing Crimea from Ukraine, occupying Ukraine, seizing land in Europe. Trump defended it. We're to believe that Trump would somehow be better than Biden on Ukraine. When Trump sides with Ukraine, Trump justified the Russian invasion. Trump has justified this invasion. By the way, Trump also claimed that this invasion was justified, right? Because, we antagonized the Russians and this kind of crap. Anyway, again, I just wish Trump and the Republicans, and again, I say MAGA Republicans because they control the party now. I wish they would at least just have the backbone of their convictions. You guys want to ban all abortion, admit it, right? You don't want Latinos in this country, admit it. You don't like blacks. You don't like Jews. Admit it. I don't understand the Ukraine stuff. You side with Vladimir Putin and America's enemies. You hate the troops. You call our troops suckers and losers. Admit it. I mean, I just think like if you're going to be a party that hates our soldiers, that hates our Constitution, that hates our democracy, that believes in violence, that believes police should get beaten up and killed, that wants to defund the police. Republicans have literally called for defunding the police departments, for defunding the Department of Justice, for defunding the FBI. The very people who keep law and order in this country, the Republicans want to defund them, right? You want to ban all abortions, right? You don't believe in vaccines. Donald Trump, by the way, he didn't mention this last night, but he's been mentioning this for a few weeks. Donald Trump, thank you, Spagma. Donald Trump said, thank you, Becky, that he wants to cut off all funding to any American school that requires vaccines of any kind. Guys, not only have they taken the COVID thing, by the way, I thought Trump created the COVID vaccine. So why would you be punishing schools who require kids to get the COVID vaccine? Because I thought it was a good vaccine, right? This is where the Republican lies get caught on themselves, right? Was the COVID vaccine a good vaccine that Trump created, or was it the source of all evil that nobody should trust? Which one is it? Well, Trump went farther than that. Trump in his speeches now, in his campaign speeches, calls for every American public school to be defunded 100% by the government if they require children to get any vaccines at all. Any vaccines, guys, mumps, measles, rubella, anything. They want polio, any vaccines. They want to cut off all money to any school that gets vaccines. Thank you, Becky. That's how screwed up this is. And that's where I go back one more time. Joe Biden, he's too old to be president. Yeah. But guess what? He's not trying to burn the country down. And he didn't try to burn the country down. He didn't try to violently overthrow the government. He wasn't convicted of sexually assaulting a woman. He wasn't convicted of 34 felonies. He didn't steal classified information and then try to hide the classified information when the court ordered him to return it, right? And on and on. He didn't ignore COVID and get millions of Americans killed. And on and on and on and on. He didn't side up with America's enemies over America. He doesn't hate our troops. He doesn't side with Vladimir Putin. He doesn't hate our allies in Europe, which Trump does. Trump hates our allies. Trump loves the bad guys, loves the freaking bad guys, hates the allies. Anyway, on and on and on and on. So I don't know where all this goes. Thank you, Dora. Thank you, Michael. It's really, 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 it's a bad situation. Biden sucked last night, but Trump is the worst human being we've ever had run for president in this country. And Republicans know it, but they don't care anymore. Thank you, Cuevas. They just don't care. Thank you, Booty. Because they don't believe in, again, faith and freedom, all the stuff they claim to believe in, they don't believe in anymore. And by the way, I'm still liking it how the Trump supporters, thank you, Christian, the Trump supporters are still going, you're lying. There isn't a single thing that I said that was a lie. Google it. And this is what is so duplicitous about, this is what is so fascist about this movement. Okay, is they have to claim everything's a lie because they're afraid to tell you the truth of what they want to do. They literally are still pretending like they're not trying to outlaw abortion. Somebody got into an argument with me about that like last night or the night before and tried to claim, oh no, Republicans aren't opposed to abortion. Like you literally want to ban all abortion nationwide, right? But let's pretend, right? Donald Trump would be better for Ukraine. Trump literally cut off all American aid to Ukraine. All of it, 100% of the money he cut off. By the way, last week, Trump criticized the $60 billion additional money Biden was finally able to get for Ukraine. Trump criticized it and said it would never happen under him, right? The man would be good for Ukraine. The man wants to cut off all aid to Ukraine. Maybe at some point, as Maya Angelou said, we should believe somebody when they tell you who they are the first time. Donald Trump told us who he was a very, very, very long time ago. And we should stop pretending like he's going to be someone else because he's not going to be someone else. He's going to be exactly who he is. Thank you, Ellie. Alexa, lower the temperature 1 degree. I didn't adjust my temperature before the show started, so it's getting warm. Anyway. Oh, man. Any case, yeah, I'm not a big fan of liars. And again, the man's dangerous. That's what I said. Like, Republicans are fine. I don't mind a Republican becoming a president, really. Maybe more conservative than me, but damn. To be such a pathological liar, he hates our country. To hate our country to the point these guys do, to hate our democracy, to hate our freedom, and to love our enemies, to be so enamored with America's enemies like Putin, to be so enamored with authoritarian governments that these people are. Thank you, Booty, is what makes me sick. All right, let's move on. And then Trump claimed another lie. By the way, Google it, okay? Google it. Trump claimed, we Americans have given so much more money to Ukraine than the Europeans have, like so much more money. Yeah, well, the latest numbers show that the European Union has given, European countries in the European Union have given $190 billion for Ukraine. The United States has given $175 billion. Okay, $175 billion. Europe's given $15 billion more. Trump claimed last night, the U.S. has given so much more money than the Europeans have. Guys, he lies about everything. And this is I think this really is what disturbs me the most, is all the people here defending him. A lot of them are Russian trolls. Some of them are probably real. They're defending him because they've been lied to. The guy lied to you. He lied to you. He lied to you about the troops. He lied to you about the budget deficit that he broke, right? All the issues, they claim they care about our soldiers, but he hates the soldiers. They claim they care about the budget, but he broke the budget, right? They claim they care about Ukraine and Europe ponying up. Europe did pony up, but they don't care. But you're right, though. A lot of this is Russian trolls, too. It's both, though. The trolls are out in force. The trolls get very upset. I mean, the trolls do get very upset, and God knows these are a lot of Russians. They're absolutely a lot of Russian trolls. But some of them are real because, honestly, they've been conned to. They've been lied to by everything. I mean, they've been lied to by everyone. I've said this before, by the way. If you think about it, I mean, and I have some sympathy for Trump supporters, for MAGA, because they've been lied to by everybody. Imagine, I'll say this like for Americans, but I think any of you from abroad can appreciate this as well. Thank you, Macabre. Imagine as an American, let's create the lie that, I don't know, right? I don't even know what lie to create. Let's just create some crazy lie. Okay, space aliens have come down to Earth and replaced the president with an alien, okay? Crazy lie nobody would believe. Well, I guess in this case, it wouldn't be your president. We'd have to have something else because your president you wouldn't believe because he's the alien. But the president you voted for and comes out and says the lie is true. Your top newspaper you believe, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, New York Times, your top newspaper you believe comes out and says the lie is true. Okay? Your top members of Congress you voted for, your member of Congress you voted for, the leaders of your party, right? Your political party, the leaders of your party in Congress, the senators, the House of Representatives, they all say the lie is true. The top news show that you watch on TV, the trusted news people you watch all tell you the lie is true, right? If you're a Democrat and CNN, the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, who else do we have? National Public Radio, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, the head of all these people come to you and tell you the lie is true. Of course you're going to believe the lie. Why wouldn't you believe? Of course you're going to believe the lie, right? There's no possibility that the president, the leaders in Congress, the top news outlets, the top newspapers are all lying. That's why Trump wins. Because even though I think a lot of MAGA voters are too gullible, they're way too gullible. It is such an incredible situation to see where the top levels of one political party, from the head of the party, Donald Trump, to their top news outlet, Fox News, to their top newspapers, to their top pundits, to their top members of Congress, every single one of them lies about the election, for example. No wonder they believe these lies. They also lied about the COVID vaccine. No wonder they don't believe in vaccines anymore. They were told by all of them that vaccines were dangerous. I mean, again, imagine if you're British, it's the BBC. I don't know. If you're French, it's Le Monde. Imagine the publications you believe in, the party leader you voted for, the news, the TV news, everybody you believe in is telling you that a lie is true. You're going to believe the lie. That is what is so dangerous about fascism, about the fascism from these guys. It boggles my mind how dangerous it is, boggles my mind. All right. Ukraine news. Woo-woo! All right. We're going to do a little more Ukraine news and then we'll open it up to Q&A. Have fun, mods. Financial Times. This was a story from yesterday, since yesterday we didn't have a show because we did the debate show instead. Thank you. Who's the gift there from? Thank you, Ellie. Keep the gifts coming, by the way, guys. I do this full time and I do it for free. If you like the work that I do, Also election coverage I'm going to be doing from now until the election, but also Ukraine. Please do support my work. I do it for free. Thank you, Russell, for the gift there. Your guys help pay my bills with these gifts, so please keep them coming, okay? Subscriptions as well. We love subscriptions, so throw in some subscriptions if you've been following for a while as well. Become a monthly subscriber or maybe some gift ones. All right, Financial Times. Israel, the U.S., and Ukraine are talking about potentially giving some of Ukraine's Patriot missile systems to Ukraine. I'm getting all the countries mixed up. Israel is negotiating with the U.S. and Ukraine to turn over some of Israel's Patriot missile systems to Ukraine. Israel's got 8 systems. They're phasing them out this year. They're getting new and better systems. It's not clear if Ukraine will get any. It's not clear how many Ukraine will get, if they get any. It's not clear the deal is done, but it went public, which is a good sign. There is concern because of Israel getting into this battle now, potentially with Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. I don't think we talked about this with the show the other night, 2 nights ago. I don't think so. There's concern that Israel may be worried about a potential war with Lebanon now, so that it may not want to give up these systems. Thank you, Calman. Thank you, Tarad. But this would be a big deal. Ukraine, I think, has currently 3 of these systems. They've got at least one coming from Romania. There might be another one coming from Germany. I forget whether Germany has an entire system coming. I think so. Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Russell. But they don't have a lot. Getting literally, even if they got 5 more would be more than twice the number they've got. These are used to defend cities, for example. They really can't defend a bigger area, though, than like a city. They're just too small. The coverage, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but the coverage like 25 miles, something like that, 30, 40 kilometers. It's not a very huge coverage, as I recall, that the Patriots have. It's not like an anti-ballistic missile system that, can shield the whole country. You basically need like 2 of them to protect Kyiv, the capital, so you'd need in other cities, 150, is it that big, James? 150 kilometers? That's 100 miles. That would be huge. I thought it was more like 25. Anyway, you might be right, James. But in any case, so there you go. All right. North Korea. North Korea is sending troops to Ukraine. They're claiming they're engineering troops. They should arrive, I think, in the next month. It's okay. Thanks, James. Okay, so it's a little more than I thought, at least. That's good. Nonetheless, they pretty much need 1 or 2 of them to protect Kyiv. They need more of them to protect the other capitals. Okay, Mustard is saying, okay, Pack 2 is 160 kilometers. Pack 3 is 40 kilometers. Oh, that's interesting that the Pack 3 is actually less. That's surprising. Okay, very interesting. So yes, North Korea is sending engineering troops to Ukraine. Obviously, it's a concern. The plan is for them to help the Russians rebuild the cities the Russians have stolen in eastern Ukraine. Obviously, it's a concern if the North Koreans are sending troops, in part, thank you, Russell, because North Korean troops can get killed. Not that, obviously, that's a bad thing, but the point is, the North Korean leadership's crazy. You guys know I will tell you that the Russians are not crazy, okay? People always worry, oh my God, the Russians are crazy, they're going to nuke us. No, they're not. The Russians are not crazy. They may be genocidal maniacs, but they're not crazy. They're rational, is my point. They're rational. They know if they nuke us, we will nuke them. So they're not going to do it. The North Koreans are freaking out of their mind crazy, that government. That dictator is a nut job. That's the concern with the North Koreans getting involved. The North Koreans send troops, the troops get killed, right? What do they do in response? It's very, very, very screwed up. And I think that potentially the North Koreans send troops and you're going to see NATO start to send more troops. Now, unofficially, there have been reports that there are NATO troops already, aides, or what do you call them, military advisors in Ukraine. Officially, there's no such confirmation. But we believe, I think the Brits, and I'm trying to remember some of the other ones, maybe the French have got, maybe the Americans, but we don't know officially that any are there. I think you're going to see an upping of the NATO military presence in Ukraine if, in fact, the North Koreans do send troops in the next month. This came via Sky News, quoting the New York Times. Yeah, according to the British and other Western intelligence sources, more than 1,000 Russian soldiers were injured or killed each day last month. Now, this was a story that came out about a week ago, because I remember reporting on it, but the New York Times basically confirmed it with British, American, and other Western intelligence officials that the Russians were losing 1,000 troops a day, killed and injured, putting it to maybe 30,000 troops a month, but they were replacing them with the same number of troops, that basically the Russians are recruiting another 25 to 30,000 troops a month. So it's kind of a stalemate. What is interesting, though, is you got to remember, up till now, Russia has lost 500,000 troops in Ukraine, combination of killed and injured. But the point is, they've been injured to the point where they're not fighting anymore or they're dead. That's a lot of qualified, what's the word I'm looking for? Well-trained men who have been killed and injured, right? Russia has lost a lot of its top trained troops. It now is using all of these new people, the Nepalese, the African students that it coerced into fighting, right? The Nepalese, Sri Lankans, Indians. It's using people who aren't qualified as its military so that every month another 30,000 get knocked out and they bring in more unqualified people. That's good for Ukraine. I mean, that is very good for Ukraine. But nonetheless, the point is, it's not like Russia will cease having men because they keep replacing the men. That's the bad side. Another Russian, thank you, Cheryl, for the blooming ribbons. Another Russian Su-25 subsonic single-seat twin-engined aircraft has been shot down in Ukraine reportedly. It's the second one this month. I Googled a little more about what the Su-25 is. It is basically the Russian version of the US A-10 Warthog, for anybody who's up on military stuff. Little more here. The Czech government sent the first allotment of artillery shells to Ukraine, about 50,000 shells. You remember that the Ukrainians have always been behind the Russians in terms of the number of shells they have. The Russians have had more. The Ukrainians have had to basically ration out how many shells they use. It's very bad. The Russians at points have been using like 10 times as many shells as the Ukrainians have. The Russians also produce like 3 times as many shells as NATO produces, artillery shells. So it's bad on every level. The Czech government went around and found 1.5 million artillery shells around the world that they could procure for Ukraine. They raised money. They've raised a lot of the money. I don't know if they've raised all of it yet, but they raised a lot of the money. And the first 50,000 shells, which, we're talking 1.5 million shells here. 50,000 is not a lot, but it's the first shells arriving, which is a really great thing. So that's good. Finland announced 170 million in new military aid for Ukraine, bringing Finland's total assistance to 2.2 billion euros or $2.3 billion. And finally, the last thing I wanted to give you really quick was a story, showing an ice cube, story in Sky News, and others picked it up too, that a Russian official basically went all genocidal about Ukraine. And I think it's important because, again, you need to understand who these people are. You need to understand who the Russians are, how they think. And again, I say that their top leaders aren't irrational, but they are genocidal. I mean, we are not dealing with nice people. We are dealing with a country that is our enemy. Listen to this. Dmitry Rogozhin, a Russian official who was previously head of Russia's space agency. I love how the guy was head of the space agency. Thank you, Giant. Giant, let me get to your question in a second. The guy who was the head of Russia's space agency and is now currently in charge of the occupied Zaporizhia region. So Zaporizhia is basically down here. So it's this province that Russia has captured and holds a good chunk of it. Okay. He posted on Telegram, social media, saying it's time to burn everything Ukrainian down to the root until there is no trace left. Quote, together with their bastard literature, delusional history, cannibalism of the ancient Ukrainians, passion for fascist aesthetics, and servility towards the West. Burn it so that there's no spirit left, no truces. Any truce, let alone reconciliation, is certain death for our children and grandchildren. So multiple things going on here. One, he's literally using genocidal language and dehumanizing language about the Ukrainians, which is the kind of language that the Germans use in World War II, right? I mean, this is classic. I say Germans because I think TikTok doesn't like us using that other word, the N word, so to speak, if you know what I mean. That's the first thing. The second thing is the crazy language at the end. Okay, this is like literally a war of convenience for Russia. They invaded Ukraine. They wanted to steal some land, and they're pretending that any truce, so any peace agreement with Ukraine, quote, is certain death for our children and grandchildren. Why would a peace agreement in Ukraine be certain death for all of Russia's children? Like, what? It doesn't even make sense, guys. Again, we are dealing with people operating on an entire other level. This is what is so dangerous. This is the kind of crap we had to deal with during the Soviet Union. It's this kind of genocidal thinking. It's this kind of hegemonic thinking. It's these kind of crazies. these kind of crazies who are hell-bent on basically invading their neighbors, going to war with all of us. And they've got these sort of crazy world domination views that frankly are like the Germans and the Japanese from World War II. It's pretty screwed up. It's pretty screwed up. Giant says, I don't know if you already mentioned this, but the last couple of days, Ukraine has been taking ground in Terney direction. I don't know of any ground that's been taken. I did not see that. I saw, for example, that Chasiv, I didn't mention it because it was kind of small, but Chasiv Yar, which is one of the towns that we've talked about a lot, about the Ukrainians defending and the Russians taking it, and real concern about, Vlad's mentioned it on our weekend shows, for example, that Chasiv Yar wasn't looking good. There was a report today that the Russians sort of made a push and the Ukrainians pushed them back in Chasiv Yar, but it was sort of a small report, so I didn't bring it up because it was good, right? The Ukrainians pushed back the Russians, but still. Thank you, Super Hornet. I did not see, I'll have to look. I just haven't seen anything about the Ukrainians taking ground, but I don't disbelieve you. But I didn't see it. But thank you for that, Giant. I appreciate the, I'm going to call you Giant if you appreciate why. I appreciate the gift. And thank you, Super Hornet. All right, guys, let's take your questions, your comments. This is the part of the show where we hang out and talk. And remember, tomorrow we've got the Coffee Talk. So the Coffee Talk is for the paid subscribers, the paid monthly subscribers. That's everybody on TikTok that's got SNN next to your name, everybody on YouTube that has the green name. Thank you, Timothy. You're either people who paid for a monthly subscription or you sort of inherited one because people will buy them as gifts, which feel free to buy them. People will buy them as gifts, and you possibly get a gift certificate for a month. So Brandon asks, what is my opinion on North Korea sending troops? We did talk about that. You know, North Korea reportedly is going to send engineering troops. I still think it's dangerous. You know, the North Korean government is crazy. If some of their troops get killed, who knows what happens because they are crazy. So that's the first thing, right? North Korea is a nuclear power. Otherwise, they would have been wiped off the map a long time ago because they're crazy and belligerent and everything else. But it is, you know, the very concern people have with Russia, we should have with North Korea, right? Because the government's nuts. And who knows what they do if some of their people get killed. By the way, I see. Now I don't. Once again, somebody gave a bunch of little subscriptions that a number of you just got. Who gave this the free the subscriber gifts? It was me, Blue Ariel. Thank you, Blue Ariel. Appreciate that. Okay, I hate that it never tells me, so thank you for that. Now, I was wondering about how many. This is a good question. Brandon said it's 10 brigades worth. Isn't that a lot? How many troops is that? It was something like, I want to say it was something like 3/4 of I thought I read that it was 3/4 of North Korea's like engineering troops are going to Ukraine or something crazy. Thank you. I appreciate that, Blue Ariel. But it's a large number. I worry about what happens when they get killed and what North Korea does. I worry about them. Basically, any North Korean troops in Europe is a problem. North Korean troops should not be fighting in wars in Europe. That is dangerous on its face. It is escalatory. Putin basically is trying to find ways to say, screw you to NATO. That's what he's doing. He is literally trying to escalate. I mean, if anything, this is the problem with Putin, or problem for Putin. Putin knows he's not winning this war. Putin knows he probably can't win this war. He may not lose this war, but he can't win the war. He's stuck, right? Putin knows he can't win a war with NATO. He knows our military is so much more powerful than his, right? Right now, he's fighting some NATO weapons. He's not even fighting all of NATO's weapons, and he's not fighting the best NATO weapons. He doesn't even have F-16s, let alone F-35s, which are the new really good planes, right? He hasn't been fighting NATO's Navy, our cruise missiles, nothing. I mean, okay, a couple cruise missiles from the French and the Brits, that's it. Putin knows if he were to fight the U.S. Navy and the U.S. Air Force, it would be over for Russia. They can't afford to get into a war with Europe and America. But Putin needs to convince us. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Nicholas, for the gifts. And Tom again. Putin needs to convince us that there could be war because that'll scare us into not supporting Ukraine anymore. So Putin is deathly afraid of war with us because he knows he'd lose, right? And he knows he's weak. But he has to convince us that there might be a war with us in order to scare us into not helping Ukraine. And it's a catch-22, basically. Like it's a conundrum for Putin because he's got to do things to risk war with us, to scare us into thinking there might be a war when he knows if it happens, he loses. So that's what he's doing with North Korea, I think. He's trying to amp it up. He's trying to escalate. He's trying to make the situation more dangerous so that, again, NATO, Biden, Trump, especially because we know Trump wants to help Putin anyway, that basically the anti-Ukraine forces, the pro-Putin forces, or just the forces like Biden and the French and the Germans who have been a little bit afraid of Putin will go, oh boy, this is really scary and dangerous that the North Koreans are sending troops. Maybe we shouldn't be helping Ukraine. It's too dangerous. That's part of what's going on. That's part of what's going on. You know? Anyway. NAFO literally laughs, scared of a Russian war. NAFO? I'm NAFO. NAFO literally laughs at Russia. Are you kidding? NAFO, or do you mean NATO? Although NATO is somewhat afraid of Russia. And to some, I mean, they should be and they shouldn't be both. But Ryan, don't know what you're asking thoughts about. Can other countries retaliate on North Korea? It depends what that means, right? I mean, we're not going to attack North Korean troops, right? Exactly, Blue Ariel. I talked about thoughts on the debate. You missed the first part of the show, motivational. Update: the auction items sold last night. They are all done. I'm gonna this weekend. I've got to get those and last week's auctions packed up to be mailed. I then have to sort of pick out the new auction items for next week. So we're not there yet. But the auction items did all sell last week. Did the S500 get destroyed? No way. Was there a report on that, Blue Ariel? I did not see that. I saw that. I did not see that anywhere. Hang on here. I mean, that'd be really funny if it did. Hang on. Here's the problem. Bullshit media is reporting it. It's the bullshit media. It's Newsweek that isn't a real news outfit. That's the problem. It's rumors. Don't believe Newsweek. Don't believe the rumors. Newsweek used to be one of America's top publications. It's now not. It's fake news now. It got bought by. They sold the name. It's literally just regurgitates bullshit now. This is a Ukrainian journalist claiming on Telegram, which is social media, that the newest Russian S-500 air defense system was destroyed by an ATACMS. Maybe, but I would not believe it based on some 2-bit Newsweek and some Ukrainian journalist guy. You know what I mean? Yeah, I wouldn't believe it. Maybe it'd be cool if it's true. The S-500 is Russia's new big anti-aircraft, anti-missile system that they may only have one of, and they put it at the Kerch Bridge to protect the bridge, and people were just waiting for this thing to get bombed. Flick, I didn't see today, although I heard Biden was also good last night after the debate. Classic. Thank you, Tom. But yeah, I mean, if the Ukrainians blew it up, you'd think we'd hear about it soon. Yeah, Alec, it's too bad. They kind of, I mean, Newsweek used to be a wonderful publication, one of the best publications in America. And now, like I said, they sold the name and now they're just clickbait, literally clickbait, BS, PC Noel asked the question, any chance that Biden throws in the towel? It's hard. There is a process, but it would be a mess for Biden not to be the nominee. We've already had, most of our, if not all, but maybe most of our primaries already, because we pick the president with primaries in each state. Or I should say, we pick the candidates by having primaries in each state. We've already had them. Biden won. There's a process to free up the electors or whatever the hell. I've been forgetting what they're even called for the primaries. What do they call them? Delegates, I think, for the primaries. And there's a process to free them up and stuff, but it's complicated. I think one of the biggest complications is who would replace Biden. The party would have to get together and pick somebody. Who would they pick? Is it Kamala Harris, who's the vice president? A lot of people don't like her. I mean, I will say this. I think she's fine. She's gotten so much. The Republicans have done such a good job demonizing her that people hate her, even though they don't know who she is. She's quite good. She's quite smart. I like her. She was a prosecutor too. But I like her. But a lot of people don't like her. African-American woman, we're not supposed to say these things, but would an African-American woman win the presidency? I don't know. Who knows? But here's the problem. She's the vice president. she should be the nominee if it's not him, because she's the vice president. Like, in terms of the party holding together, you don't want to pick somebody where Democrats go crazy. If Kamala Harris is chosen, it makes sense politically, meaning she's the vice president. If the president steps down to run, the vice president should run. That would be the normal. It makes sense. And anybody who complains, well, I want somebody else, like I want Elizabeth Warren or I want Bernie Sanders, you'd say, well, Kamala Harris is the vice president. It makes sense she runs, right? So it's easy to shut down dissent of other Democrats who want their person. If you don't pick Kamala Harris, then it could be anybody. It could be Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. It could be Pete Buttigieg, right, who is a big guy. It could be Elizabeth Warren. It could be, thank you, Mossy, it could be Bernie Sanders. Like, all of a sudden, you open it up to everybody if it's not Kamala Harris, and then you've got a party civil war. And the blacks say, why didn't you pick my guy? And the women say, why didn't you pick my woman, right? And the gays won't say, why didn't you pick Pete? Because the gays aren't organized enough. But you know what I mean? You absolutely, if a woman doesn't get chosen, you will see women's groups freak out. If Kamala doesn't get chosen and a white person gets picked, you'll see blacks freak out. And they won't be totally wrong necessarily. But so you really get into this almost a civil war among Democrats if you don't pick Kamala Harris. Because at least if you pick Kamala Harris, it makes sense because she's the vice president. Anybody who complains about the process, you say, she's the vice president. Of course she gets picked, right? If you don't pick her, lots of infighting, you know? She's half Indian, but honestly, everyone thinks it's like Obama being half white. Nobody thinks of Obama as half white. Obama's black. Kamala Harris, people think of as black, even though she's half Indian. I mean, for whatever it's worth, that's the perception of her. AOC, Alex, you jest. We're not picking AOC as our nominee. I mean, come on. But I will say this: Biden was horrific last night. I mean, looking at Biden last night, I feel like he should have stepped down a year ago. I mean, should have said he wasn't running a year ago. He was horrible last night. The problem is, I don't think Biden is out of his mind, right? I don't think Biden's crazy. I don't think he has dementia. I just think he's getting old. I think he's fine, but I think he's too old. But he's fine. Trump, like we said, literally tried to violently overthrow the government, and he's a criminal. And he got millions killed. Trump had his 3 a.m. call. Trump had COVID. He botched it. He had his national crisis, COVID. He lied. He admitted he lied about COVID. He didn't want to scare people. So he literally said there was no crisis. He said it was going away in 2 weeks. And then he developed the vaccine and convinced everybody not to take the vaccine that he developed. I mean, it was ridiculous. So that's the problem I've got, is that I wish Biden wasn't the nominee, to be totally honest, right? But is he better than Trump? Oh God, yes. I mean, my dog would be better than Trump as far as the danger, right? I mean, I'd rather have my dog and a bunch of top smart advisors running the country than Donald Trump, because he hates this country and he's a convicted felon, among other, and he tried to violently overthrow the government, which frankly is my biggest thing. He's a traitor to this country. You cannot have him as president. And I would rather have some old guy who's frankly too old than somebody who tried to overthrow my government. Because you know what? If Biden's president, we'll survive 4 years, right? Here, put it this way. If Biden's president, we'll survive, right? He may not be totally up for the job, but we'll survive. And maybe he'll have to step down someday. Who knows, right? If Trump is president, will our democracy survive? I'm not convinced. I'm not at all convinced. He tried to violently overthrow the government. He is trying to bring fascism to America. He's trying to bring authoritarianism to America. I don't know that we can survive that. So that's where it kind of comes down to. Thank you, Make Me King. That's where it comes down to. Is it comes when I started the show, I gave you that the person who was responding to the journalist, and the journalist wrote last night and said, I still think it was a great. Let me see if I've got the tweet. I don't think I thought maybe I retweeted. Let me see because I must have retweeted it. It was such a good tweet. Hang on a second. It was such a damn good tweet. Hang on. Here it is. So Andy Kaczynski of CNN, if an 81-year-old person applied for a job at your company and appeared as Biden did on stage, would they even be granted an interview? And somebody responds to him, probably not. But if they already had the job, were crushing it, and someone who tried to blow up the building applied for the job instead, you've got a different story. And that's the thing. Would you hire Biden if he were new? Probably not. Would you replace him with somebody who literally tried to burn down the country? No, no. And that's the difference. And you know what? It sucks, but David Frum, who's a friend of mine, very smart guy, conservative Republican, but now the Republicans hate him because he stood up to Donald Trump. Frum argued today, I thought quite smartly, and said, if you're upset about the situation Biden put us in, Biden didn't put us in a situation. The Republicans did. The Republican Party could have nominated somebody sane, and they would have been the alternative to Biden. And it would have sucked if you're not on the right, having Nikki Haley or somebody win, right? And having her be the nominee and having her beat Biden. It would have sucked if you don't believe in her politics, but she's not crazy. She doesn't hate America. She doesn't hate democracy. The Republicans didn't do that. They picked somebody who is literally a threat to our country, a threat to our democracy, okay? A threat to our allies, a threat to our national security, and a corrupt as hell. So is it really Democrats' fault that our guy kind of sucks? Or is it the Republicans' fault for picking an alternative who literally is a corrupt criminal? I mean, I wish there was like one word to define Trump. Thank you, Aria. What are Trump's chances of winning? I don't know. The question is, I don't know that the debate matters. Syndicate asks, what are Trump's chances of winning after the debate? I had said, and then I watched some analyses that said the same thing. Thank you, Christian, that if you're a Trump supporter, you like him. I mean, God, if you're a Trump supporter, he's a convicted felon and you still like him. He was convicted of sexually assaulting a woman and you still like him. So, right, Trump supporters are going to support him anyway. If you're a Biden supporter, you hated what Biden did last night, but you didn't watch it and go, Biden was really old and horrible last night. I think I'm going to let the guy win who tried to violently overthrow our country and who took away the women's right to choose, right? I mean, no Democrat is going to do that. So the question you get is the small number of people in the middle who can't decide. Yes, Marie is Canadian. Actually, was she journalist? I think she's also, wasn't Barbara the jurist as well, I think? I'm trying to remember. I think Barbara's the one she's my little, we're Twitter friends via David. Yeah. Kamala means horrible in Finnish. Oh, that's funny. We know Pedro. Thank you, Pedro. We know Pedro and trust Pedro. That's very funny. Kamala means horrible. Now the name, I'm pretty sure the name has got to be Indian. Kamala, right? What does Kamala mean in Indian? Does anybody know? Yeah, no, she and we've chatted before on Twitter. She's very nice. I've never met her though, because she's in Canada, of course, but I'm friends with David here in DC. Thank you, Ginger. And David's he and his wife are lovely. Such smart, interesting people, Anyway, Pedro is funny. So what else, guys? What else? Beep, 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 beep. Anyway, oh my God. Kamala means lotus? Really? Yeah, our elections are crazy. Our elections go on for 2 years, believe it or not. Yeah, just said, why does America elections take too long? The UK elections are done in 6 weeks. The French elections are pretty short too. The French elections might be 3 months or something usually. They're pretty short. American presidential elections go for 2 years. It's ridiculous. Which is also, by the way, this is what's funny. Okay? When Democrats debate and say, oh my God, it's only today is June, so that's 6. It's only 4.5 months to the election, right? There's no way we can replace Biden as the party leader. And it's funny because Europeans go, our elections are 6 weeks long. Like, what do you mean? You've got 4.5 months, and it's not long enough to replace, Biden as the guy at the top of the ticket. It is kind of funny, But in America, that's considered, oh my God, there's not enough time. It's very funny. Ronald Reagan. Pat mentioned this. Ronald Reagan had Alzheimer's in his second term, and they lied about it. He literally had Alzheimer's, and they hid it. Now, I don't think that's a good thing. I mean, I'm not going to use that as my justification for saying, yay, Biden, right? But, it wouldn't be the first time we had a president who was getting old, and I mean, much worse than that, obviously, in terms of, he's not fine, John. Let's stop. I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't play games. I mean, in terms of the politics I do, Biden was horrific last night. I'm not going to play games, but Trump is 1,000 times worse. But I mean, I don't think we win anybody over by pretending like, yeah, Biden was really good. No, he wasn't. He was horrible. I mean, let's stop pretending. I mean, by the way, who's the guy who's been telling you forever Biden's way too old? I've told you this from the beginning. He's way too old. And he is. But he's better than a guy who tried to violently overthrow the government, right? I mean, there is no comparing. There's absolutely no comparing. Now, Putin, I mean, Putin was elected again. He's not up anytime soon, Antonina. Putin was just reelected president a couple of months ago. I forget what month it was, but it was maybe 2 months ago. Maybe. Was it March, April? So I don't know if he'll be elected again anytime soon, but probably. Most likely, right? Yeah, he was just reelected. Yeah. With 87% of the vote, which was ridiculous, of course. You know, but I believe it was 87%, which is crazy. You know. Yeah, they're a total joke. Yeah. Yep. UK on July 4th, both in their 40s with the candidates. That's funny. What else, guys? Supreme Court recent rulings. I mean, I've been following them, but I don't know, you know. Actually, we've been waiting for the big, which they didn't do today. I'm kind of, usually they're done by the end of the month. I'm guessing they're waiting until early next week because we still don't have the immunity decision yet out of the U.S. Supreme Court, whether Trump can be, you know, charged with crimes, et cetera. Antonina has a nuclear war question. You can ask. We've talked about it before, but you can ask. So Monday's the last day, Pat? Okay, I was going to say, I'm guessing the last day is the last day of the month. So Monday, 28, 29, 30, April, June. So June has 31 days. So Monday is the last day of the term. There you go. Thank you, Julian. Yep, makes sense. Because the decisions have to be released by the end of June. And they released the biggest for last, which is really kind of obnoxious. So, yeah, the Chevron decision I'm familiar with, but I didn't read up on it, so I don't know the details. I just know it affects, you know, sort of the interpretation of government regulations and all of this, but I don't know enough about the details. Yulia hinted F-15s are in Ukraine. Interesting. No, F-16s, you mean? You mean the F-16s, I'm assuming? But I've seen nothing. I mean, we were all kind of suspicious. Okay, thanks, Nick. We were all kind of suspicious recently. Vlad has had everyone's had suspicions. But how do we know Putin's bluffing about a nuclear war? Well, we don't. But we don't know anything. I mean, we don't know anything, right? Unless you're in someone's head. Thank you, Jonathan. But the way you stop a nuclear war is making damn clear to the other guy that if he starts one, he's going to lose it. Thank you, Jonathan. And he will lose it. I mean, that's the thing. The only way Putin will use nukes is if Putin thinks he will get away with using them. Well, two things. One, he has to think that he will get some advantage out of using nukes, that somehow using nuclear weapons will put him in a better situation than not using nuclear weapons. That's the first analysis. The second analysis, which is really part of it, is that he'll get away with it. Meaning A, there's an advantage to using nukes, and B, the disadvantage isn't so great that it outweighs the advantage. Well, the disadvantage comes in with what's NATO going to do in response. If Putin used nukes against us, we would nuke him back and we would destroy Russia. He would destroy us too, but we destroy him too. There's zero possibility. Literally, Russia nukes America, we will nuke them back. And it's the end of the world. They know it. That's why they're not going to use them. Nukes in Ukraine gets more complicated. It gets much more complicated. You know? Because it depends whether we have made clear. Jill Stein. Okay. Anybody pushing Jill Stein gets immediately muted because she's a freaking pro-Putin lunatic. No, that's like crazy stuff. Thank you, Liv. 30 days has September. 30 days has September, April, June, and November. You're right. June has 30 days. June does have 30 days. How is Monday the last day of the term? You're right about that. July 1st? That's weird. July 1st is the last day of the term. How bizarre. You're right. April, June, and November is 30 days. That's weird. I'm surprised that they're releasing them on the last. That's weird. Oh, because it doesn't end on the weekend when Dashi says, okay, that's it then. Okay, that's it. That's it. No, Kylie, not anti-war does not equal pro-Putin. Literally being pro-Putin equals being pro-Putin. Jill Stein is insane. Jill Stein, I mean, I'm not even going to debate Jill Stein. The woman is categorically a nut job. She's a pro-Russian, pro-Putin fringe nut job. I mean, she's this lunatic who runs for president every 4 years and like as a Green, but in America, the Green Party isn't the Green Party. Like in the rest of the world, the Green Party is like this normal political party. In America, the Green Party are these lunatics. They're literally these fringe, crazy lunatics, and she's the leader of the crazies. Thank you, Canada Zen. So yeah, I'm not even going to debate Lynn Stein as president. The woman's out of her mind. I mean, mods, literally, any discussion of Jill Stein gets muted. She's a lunatic. I mean, it's like debating whether Porky Pig should be president. It's just not even worth it. I can appreciate people bringing up RFK Jr., right? I mean, he's terrible, but I appreciate like the concept of people asking. But Jill Stein, you're a nut job if you want Jill Stein. I'm sorry, but no normal person even thinks of picking Jill Stein. It just doesn't. Michelle Obama. I love Michelle. I got to meet Michelle Obama twice. Very quickly, I got to go to the White House, actually 3 times, White House Christmas party. And very nice. You get to meet the president and the first lady, but it's super, like literally 3 to 5 seconds. It's nothing, but Michelle Obama is she's very pretty in person, which is interesting because I don't think she's very photogenic. Again, I tell the truth here, guys. Her pictures, I think, are too strong and scary and I don't think she photographs well. In person, she's a lovely woman. She has charisma like you will never believe. Michelle Obama there is such an energy, a positive energy about this woman. Like you meet her and you immediately go, oh my God, I want to know her. like I want to know this woman. Right? I want to have dinner with this woman. Barack Obama, you meet, and it's like meeting a dead fish. Ugh. Like I remember shaking his hand 3 different times, and it was like, couldn't care less. Michelle, 3 seconds of joy meeting Michelle Obama. It was weird. It was very weird. I mean, weird because the idea of meeting somebody for 3 seconds and feeling like you got a sense of the person is crazy, right? I think I meet somebody and go, hi, nice to meet you. And like, you're like, okay, that sucked. She's just like, oh my God, hi. You know, it's just an amazing, just amazing. You're having a day today, mods. I know, sorry. But I do have my cow batteries are back. My problem on RFK, Jordan, is he's a conspiracy nut. RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr., thank you, Iggy. His claim to fame used to be that he was an environmentalist and a very good one. He was an environmental activist and a good guy. I mean, again, his big thing was the environment and more power to him, right? He cares about the environment. He didn't get involved in other issues. Thank you, Running. I don't know what happened to him that turned him into an anti-vaxxer, but he turned into a conspiracy theorist on vaccines. He thinks all vaccines are evil, all of them, right? Not just the COVID stuff. The COVID stuff alone, a little weird. I understand how some people got caught up in all the lies about COVID, but the COVID stuff's a little weird. He doesn't just think the COVID vaccine is woo-woo. He thinks all vaccines are woo-woo. And again, you can Google this. RF Kennedy Jr. last summer said that there isn't a single vaccine ever proven effective. That's insane. He said last summer, there isn't a single vaccine ever proven safe. Again, insane. The organization he created, this Children's Health Initiative that's all about basically getting children not to take vaccines, came out a few months ago. I talked about it on the show, came out a few months ago and said they came out against the polio vaccine, saying the polio vaccine doesn't work. Polio isn't caused by polio, they claim. I mean, it's caused by toxins in your blood and the vaccine doesn't work. We all know the polio vaccine works. The polio vaccine saved millions of children from becoming cripples, right? From becoming, losing their legs, from being in I was going to say black lungs, iron lungs, right? People in polio are the ones where they had to put them inside of like literally metal tubes, where the pressure would change and it would help them breathe. It would make them breathe, literally. Anybody who says polio isn't real, anybody who says the polio vaccine isn't real is out of their freaking minds. He's a crazy person now. On Ukraine, he's totally pro-Russia on Ukraine, which is also crazy. He's bought into all the Russian, so he's one of those too, which I'm not surprised in a way. I guess I am surprised. Thank you, Flower Lady. Thinking like he's a liberal, you think he'd be okay on Ukraine. He totally believes the Putin line on Ukraine. Oh, NATO did all of this. It's all NATO's fault. Putin just wanted to be our friend and this kind of crap. He's crazy. And the vaccine stuff, especially, it's not an agreement to disagree. We're talking about RFK Jr. My hair is on point. My hair is so short that there isn't much on or off point, but I appreciate hearing that today. Mean green. It just kind of does. It just kind of does stuff at this length. It's quite hard. My hair is my hair has always been very thick. So even like this, it's like I've got like, was it ASMR hair? I do not think we're going to war anytime soon. No. I don't know enough about the Chevron decision. I mean, I read about it briefly today, but I just don't know enough about it. I talked about it to a friend of mine today in the car. We're talking about administrative law, but I don't know enough about administrative law. You know what I mean? Alexa, lower the temperature 1 degree. He's insane, Jack. First of all, who cares? RFK Jr. was literally injured by a vaccine, so you should listen to him? Why? You think some woman's injured by a plane, I'm going to let her fly my plane? Well, she doesn't know how to fly planes, but a piece of luggage fell on her foot once. Why the hell would I believe somebody? No, I'm sorry, but that's just a bullshit explanation. I don't mean to be rude, but you know what? I'm going to listen to you on vaccines if you're a scientist and you're a credible scientist who went through years of study and years of research and you're one of the smartest guys in your field. That's who I'm going to believe if I'm talking about vaccines. But this is something that Republicans, frankly, have done. Here's the interesting thing, actually. The anti-vaccine people used to be equal Republican and Democrat. I had researched this a number of years ago. It wasn't Republicans. It was Democrats and Republicans, 50% each. Now it's Republicans. The Republicans have gone nuts on the vaccine thing. And frankly, it's this larger kind of creepy thing among Republicans where we shouldn't believe experts. Well, you know why they don't like to believe experts? If you're a political party that lies all the time, you're going to be very concerned about experts because experts are the people who are going to say, you're lying, you're wrong. So if you're somebody who lies and leans towards fascism, who leans towards authoritarianism, right, and lies to its voters and lies to the people, lies to the American people or the Hungarian people or whoever, right, you need to get rid of the media. You need to get rid of the doctors. You need to get rid of the lawyers. You need to basically make all the experts no longer credible. And you do that by attacking them and say, you can't believe experts. And that's where that kind of crap comes in, where somebody would say, well, RFK Jr. was hurt by a vaccine, so therefore no vaccines. By the way, literally that's what you're arguing because this is what he just said. No vaccines work and no vaccines are safe because by the way, RFK Jr. claims he was hurt by a vaccine. I have no reason to believe he's telling the truth, but let's pretend he is, right? Let's pretend he is. One vaccine, that's the other problem. And this comes with, thank you, Christian, this comes with, frankly, not being very educated. That you think that, oh, one person's hurt. During COVID, we heard this bullshit. Oh, I know of somebody, which total bullshit, by the way, but I know of somebody who was hurt by the COVID vaccine. Therefore, the COVID vaccine is bad. Do you understand how vaccines work? Do you understand how medical procedures work? Have you never gone for a medical procedure? Have you never bought a prescription drug where they tell you, have you ever seen a commercial on TV, in America at least, where they tell you, this drug works, but it can have an effect on your liver. It can cause allergies. If you have an allergic reaction, call your doctor immediately because you could go into anaphylactic shock, right? Or you go for surgery, right? You go for cancer surgery or even surgery for tonsillitis or an appendectomy, right? Well, there's always a, point blah blah 1%, thank you Elizabeth, percent of people who get anesthesia die. Okay, so yeah, guess what? My grandfather died of anesthesia during, I think it was an appendectomy. He died, 69 years old. Anesthesia killed him. So that means anesthesia doesn't work. Hey, my grandfather's an expert. He died. Anesthesia doesn't work. That's the bullshit these guys tried to sell us about COVID. They literally told us, and it was a lie anyway, I know someone who got hurt by the COVID vaccine. First of all, bullshit, but let's pretend you do. Why do I care that you know somebody who was hurt by the COVID vaccine when every vaccine hurts a certain number of people? Every surgery hurts a certain number of people. Every cancer surgery kills a certain number of people. Why the hell? Every time people go for anesthesia, it kills a certain percentage of people. So that means anesthesia we should no longer use. Cancer surgery we should no longer do. I mean, I'm sorry, but it's just, and I don't mean to, and I am being kind of mean about it, but it's stupid people talking, and I just have no tolerance for stupid people. I'm sorry. It's just stupid. Like, it's uneducated, and in the end, you know who you trust with science? Smart people. You don't trust stupid people with science. And that's what Republicans want to do. You don't trust stupid people with flying your plane. The person who flies your plane is the pilot. It's the guy or gal who has years of experience, who studied for years how to fly a plane, and who has practiced for years for how to fly a plane. You don't pick the guy who everybody likes because he's loud and bombastic, but doesn't really know how to fly a plane. Okay? So, no, this is what Republicans have done about science and vaccines and everything else. It's just insane. It's absolutely just insane. Vaccines work. Obviously they work. We all know they work. It's just, seriously. And by the way, you don't want to take vaccines, knock yourself out, but don't ever come to public school which is also why, by the way, this is why Republicans are trying to defund public schools. Thank you, Christopher, by the way, for the Patriot Launcher. Join us tomorrow. Remember, 11 a.m. Eastern time, we're doing our show for all the paid subscribers. This is why Trump is threatening to defund any public school that requires vaccines, because now the crazy Republicans are saying they're not going to get any vaccines at all. They brought back measles. RFK Jr. wants to bring back polio, but the Republicans have brought back measles now, the MAGA Republicans. We've got measles now again in America thanks to these people, right? And they don't want to let schools require kids to get measles vaccines anymore, among other things. And they're threatening. Trump already said he's going to cut off money to any school that requires any kid to get a vaccine. That is so freaking dangerous. And guess what? It puts all of our lives at risk. I was asking people too, I said, okay, why not just say, you know what? If some crazy Republican doesn't want to vaccinate themselves, let them do it. It's their family, bye-bye, right? Their family kisses off the mortal coils of the earth or whatever, right? And somebody explained to me and said, yeah, newborns can't get vaccines. So actually you're putting newborns at risk, right? That there's a small percentage of kids who can't get vaccines. Thank you, user 336. And in this case, newborns. And you're going to kill newborns for starters. So no, it's pretty sick. It's pretty sick. It's really just, it's sick. And there's no VAERS data at all. Oh my God, stop. There's literally no, by the way, VAERS data, that's another thing. I'm surprised you even got through. We need to put that in the comments. This is this person arguing that, I love this, self-reported. VAERS, but let me tell you really quick, VAERS is the system for self-reporting that none of us use, of course, but we're supposed to. Whenever you have an adverse reaction to a drug, you're supposed to call this system and do it. I tried once. It was so fucking hard. I had a drug actually the drug I got literally was mildewy. It was moldy. And I tried to report it. It was so freaking hard. I gave up. The drug smelled like mildew. I went to the pharmacy. I made them open a couple other packages, and several of them were okay. One of them had the same problem. They told me to call the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. I tried to report it. It was next to impossible. I finally gave up. They sent me a form a month later. It was too hard. VAERS is this system for people to self-report adverse reactions to vaccines. They're not vetted. Over time they're vetted, but the actual reports are just raw reports. It's people calling up crazy people, normal people, people who are earnest but wrong, people who are earnest but right, and reporting a response they had to the vaccine. Now, a response to the vaccine includes, I got vaccinated and the next day I came down with a cold. I got vaccinated and a week later my doctor said I had lung cancer, right? These people report that. It doesn't mean there's a causal connection. What the anti-vaccine trolls do, which this guy just did, they claim that the VAERS evidence proves that COVID vaccine was harmful. No, the VAERS evidence proves that a lot of the crazy people called in and made all sorts of crazy things about, oh, I took the COVID vaccine and grew 3 heads the next day. Doesn't mean it's true. It's literally taking evidence that isn't evidence. It's stuff that hasn't been vetted yet. They're accusations that have not been vetted. And I had to deal with, we had to literally ban, I think it's still banned. We had to ban the word in our TikTok comments, the written comments on TikTok, because it was such a lie. They just would lie nonstop about this. It's really crazy. Yeah, of course, Antonina. Your mom is correct. Your mom is correct. Anyway, Biden was a mess last night, Stargazer. Oh, no, I said that. Anyway, let's conclude, guys. I'm not going to do a summary. We've been going for an hour and a half. All right. Thank you, guys. Remember, tomorrow morning, We've got our weekly show for the paid subscribers. We got a few more subscribers tonight. Anybody who has SNN next to your name on TikTok, anybody whose name is green on YouTube, that means you can join our weekly show. That's tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, U.S. That's 11 a.m. Washington, D.C. or New York City time. I'm in Washington. Thank you, Timothy. Thank you, Lorraine. And it's a hangout show we do that's nice. It's just kind of a nice, I don't prepare a script. We hang out, we talk. It's just a nice time. So please, and Vlad joins us sometimes from Ukraine. You never know if he can. Thank you, PC Noel. Thank you, Linka. Multiple gifts there. Thank you, JJ in Seattle. All right, guys. Thank you, Christian. I'm going to sign off. Excuse me, turn up my air conditioning or turn down my air conditioning. Excuse me. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Han. Linka, lots of gifts coming in. Lots of last minute gifts on TikTok. I'll let you run for a second since you're throwing gifts. Yulia, it's late if Yulia's awake. Very late if she's still awake in Ukraine, but if she is, go visit her. Thank you, Brooklyn Dad. Thank you, Neil. Denise, lots of gifts coming in on TikTok. So just try to come by tomorrow morning, guys. I'll be on Discord, TikTok, and YouTube, depending which place you subscribed on. Thank you, Super Hornet. But it's like I said, thank you, Rocco. It's a fun crowd. It's just the hangouts are nice because it's a smaller crowd for starters. We get like 100 plus people. Discord is not easy, Antonina, unfortunately. Do it here. Do it here on TikTok. It'll be easier for you here. I mean, I'd love you to come join us on Discord because the auctions and stuff are there. But it can be difficult for people. Thank you, Russell. Thank you, Jen Thomas. But yeah, it's a fun little hangout. We do. It's a much smaller crowd. We're able to kind of hang out and talk more. I'm able to see all your comments like this part of the show, which is nice. The trolls were out of control, but that's because I titled the show Presidential Debate and Ukraine Update. So it brought all the crazies like, I warned the mods as we came in, it was going to be the crazies tonight. So, what do you do? Hey, there's no bad publicity, right? Yulia's been doing late lives. Okay. All right. I don't think they've been released. I don't think that's true. Minnie, that's not true at all. There was a Supreme Court case that actually what happened was, I'll tell you, since that's not true what you just said. Thank you, Colonel Mustard. There was a Supreme Court case, one of the cases today, that said one of the charges of obstruction that was used for a number of the January 6th defendants, the insurrectionists, had to be thrown out of court. The problem is 95% of the people charged with obstruction had other charges. So 95% of them will not go free. 5% may go free, but the other 95% will not because of the obstruction people, because they had other charges. So hundreds of people were not released because there's only like 1,200 of them. So there's zero chance of that. The chocolate bread was okay. I'm never making chocolate bread again. It was okay. Sadly, chocolate bread is something that should have never been created. I have discovered, having made 3 or 4 of them now, they're all bad. They're just all bad. Thank you, Road Back to Fitness. If that was you who subscribed or if somebody else did it for you as a last minute, thank you for that too. I'm going to have to read up on Chevron. I don't know. It's a Supreme Court decision today. I know of it, but honestly, anything that's administrative law, I've got to read up on it before I can even vaguely believe, believe what's true. You know what I mean? It's crazy administrative law. So I know nothing about it. But yes, the chocolate bread recipe, I am not going to post on TikTok, on YouTube, on Discord, excuse me, because they don't work. Chocolate bread is wrong. You should make brownies. I've got a wonderful brownie recipe from David Leibowitz. It's amazing. But otherwise, chocolate bread should never be invented and should be a stake through the heart of chocolate bread. Never try it again. Thank you, Moses. Thank you, Christian. Yep. All right, guys, I'm going to go so I can take a break and have some of my chocolate bread as a snack. It's a good snack, but it just isn't very good. I have actually been recently, and I finally found a recipe that's not bad. Trying to make, because a friend of mine who's a chef in France put a recipe up for making prunes in wine, like poached prunes in wine, which sounds really gross, but can be interesting. And it actually, I finally found a recipe that's not bad because most of the recipes add too much sugar. This recipe still added sugar. I didn't add any sugar to it at all. And it's actually, I'm surprised, quite tasty. It's a lot of wine, some prunes, a little bit of spices, boil it down. And it's actually, I'm surprised it's not bad. Meaning it's quite it's good for you and it's quite tasty actually. Thank you, Moses. So that's another thing I've been trying lately that I finally found a recipe, and it lasts forever in your fridge because it's sweet, you know. But the bread thing, yeah, and I make other breads that are very good. I'm just not going to do chocolate bread anymore. So what do you do? But I do have a great chocolate brownie recipe that I did post on Discord. It's in there that David has. That's a made from scratch brownie that is the best brownie of your existence, made with real chocolate. Oh my God, just to die for. But anyway, all right, guys, let me go. I'm going to hang up on you. All right, have a good night. See you guys tomorrow. I do have a good banana bread already. Thanks, guys. Talk to you in the morning. Oops. we're gonna get off on our bread cover.